afternoon, Rotarian and guests. First of all, I would like to welcome His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Mubarak Bin Daina, Chief Executive, Supreme Council for Environment. And his topic is going to be climate change. Before of all, welcome His Excellency Mohamed. And I would like to just update two things that we've done. You know, the recent what we've done, it was Ramadan boxes. We distributed 645 Ramadan boxes around Bahrain. And these are the photos. It went everywhere, alhamdulillah, all received. And we did also the camp. We did also, we given also the sanitizer to the camps with the Indian society. That's all actually. And this is actually the thank from their side that, you know, for our contribution with them. I will take you back to Faisal.
I'll just
for this.
Wait, لحظة شوي. Yeah, just to add something, we have been featured in the Rotarian magazine. This magazine is distributed to all members of the Rotary all over the world. And basically, if you can see here, it put Bahrain on the map. There's 34,000 clubs worldwide and 2.1 million Rotary members. And we were able to put an article featuring Bahrain. It's a small paragraph, but it makes a big impact. It's basically, it shows we basically put Bahrain on the map. Yeah, that's it for the announcements. Seema, shall we have Dr. Dhafar introduce our speaker?
Yes, I would like to call Dr. Dhafar Al-Amran to introduce our guest speaker. Yeah, Doctor?
Okay, I can hear you.
Please, Doctor.
Faisal,
the floor is yours.
Can I go ahead?
Please go ahead.
Okay. First of all, أهلا وسهلا بالدكتور محمد. شرفت Rotary Club of Salmaniya. We're so happy that you are with us and you are celebrating with us what we call today is Earth Day, International Earth Day. طبعا your presentation is in the right place. You're going to talk about climate change. Dr. Mohamed, يعني, thank you for joining us when it was a short notice, but انت قدها وقدود يعني you are always with us when we need you. ما شايفك وايد دكتور، كانك راجع على ورا، لو تقدم شوي لقدام عشان تشوف صورتك. ايوه perfect, I can see you better now. Okay دكتور، انا اسمحوا لي بس to introduce Dr. Mohamed just briefly لان he has a long, if I want to talk about his CV, it's a very and start by saying that Dr. Mohamed, our friend, Mubarak, Dr. Mohamed Mubarak Bin Daina is currently serving as the Chief Executive of the Supreme Council for Environment, SCE. His mandate covers a big number of national environmental issues, including air quality, climate change, environmental impact assessment, pollution control, waste management, land resources, and marine and coastal conservation. He was double honored by His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa bin Salman Al Khalifa and Dr. Mohamed, clever guy. He received his PhD in chemical engineering from the Imperial College of London and earned his postgraduate certificate in academic practices from York Street, John University. طبعا the list is a long list to go, but what I think everybody you know Dr. Mohamed, so I am not going to overdo it by wasting his time, because it's now, I think we better give him a chance, talk to us for, if he can, for 10 minutes or whatever. Faisal will arrange the timing so that we can enjoy his speech and we can ask him a few questions. Thank you, Faisal. Thank you, Dr. Mohamed.
Thank you, sir. Should I begin? Faisal?
Yeah, please. The floor is yours, Doctor.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm honored and flattered by all these introductions, and I'm actually honored to be giving this speech to faces that is intellectual faces, and I think they can understand the importance of what's going on in the world now. I'll start to talk about, I think, the COVID-19, and I'll take you through from this crisis we're having now into the climate change and the environmental issues with the pollutions. As you all know, and following the news, and you're all seems to that you're being staying, I think, shocked the world with the fastest spread this virus is going through all over the world. And the effect showed us that what a small virus can do dramatically to the whole world. It kept us at home, stopped our economy, it brought the oil prices to minus, and almost paralyzed all economies and all countries in the world. And this is all we have a lesson that we need to learn from. And what is this countries is doing, as you following the numbers, are trying to minimize the numbers of the patients or the people quoting the virus. Every country in the world, they're trying to flatten the curve of the numbers that have been diagnosed with COVID-19 viruses. Some recent studies shows a very interesting relationship between the spread of the virus and the pollution. Some studies shows that the virus spread faster in the most polluted countries, especially in China and in the US. So this is actually an indicator that with all people looking at the pollutions, everybody is looking at the same numbers increased and a relationship between the pollutions and the spread of the virus. And I believe this because it's related to the way that it could be transferred through not just air, but through human contacts. The air quality is actually mainly about the particles on the air and what these particles on the air can carry from the polluted places, like chambers of any burns or dusts and anywhere, and the contact between what people can smell. What I wanted to say, and the relationship between both, is not just it is the pollution level, is actually a thought of how about all the world. Now they're facing this crisis. We will face another crisis on the climate change soon. we have an indicators that's showing that around 38% of Bahrain will be gone by 2050 because of the sea level rise. We have a degradations on the lands because of the increasing of the temperatures. We have bleaching on the coral reefs because of the increase of the water temperature. The world, if they're facing at 2020 this pandemic and this crisis, I'm sure they will face the same crisis by 2050. So what we can do about it? Actually, this crisis now shows that the developed and the developing countries are working together to tackle the virus. But the sad news, they're not working together to tackle the climate change. It's always the debate between the developed countries and the developing countries to tackle the climate change. Tackling the climate change is actually by looking at the CO2 emissions at each individual countries. We reached Paris Agreement in 2014, and we were in Bahrain with the Crown Prince part of this agreement. But what I can tell you and learn from this lesson is the world didn't learn. There is always a debate between and a challenge and a competition between the developed and the developing countries. The developed countries saying that they wanted to reduce the emissions in the world, and they're pointing fingers into the fossil fuel. The developing countries saying that the developed countries benefit from the industrial revolutions 150 years ago, and they reached a stage to be developed because of the economic growth that the developed countries take the leverage and the benefit on this 150 years. And the developing countries, they need this opportunity to develop. And there is always a demand, and it goes to the economy and money. The economy is the issues. Countries, they don't want to stop developing their own economy, and nobody's asking them to do this. But the debate is mainly about economy. It has never been about environment. All what you hear and what you see on the news, it's not the same between the closed door and the negotiation on any international agreements. I attend and participate in all international agreements regarding the climate change, regarding the waste and Basel Agreement, regarding CITES for migration of species, regarding the biodiversity for the CBD, regarding the chemicals transferred by SICAM, name it. We have 19 agreements and conventions that has been signed between as international under the UN umbrella. And the debate is always about what is going to affect countries' economy. This time, with this virus, countries didn't think about their own economies. They decided to shut down, hitting their own economies, because they've seen it with their own eyes, what this viruses can kill people and what can do to people. This way of thinking is not the same way of thinking to the environment, because they haven't seen the impact of the economy or the impact of the damages to people yet with their own eyes. In 2050, and this is based on the studies that we have done, and not all us. I mean, if you know that on an international agreement for the climate change, it's called the UNFCCC, there is a research part, an institution called IPCC, which is the scientist who's working on the climate change. Those scientists actually, under the same treaty of the climate change, giving the technical report to the countries under the UNFCCC. They are telling them that the sea level rise will vanish a lot of the small islands. I'm not here to scare you, but I'm here to tell you what exactly can happen in 2050. That's why all the countries agreed on targets, but they still, from 2015 on Paris Agreement to 2020, countries are negotiating the mechanism on how to activate the Paris Agreement. US pulling out of the agreement caused crisis. And I have a fear that Paris Agreement will be another Kyoto, and it will fall down and collapse like what happened on Kyoto. So Kyoto Agreement was before, and when the US pulled out, the crisis happened, and we have to negotiate a new treaty. The Climate Change Fund, it's a fund that's supposed to help the developing countries, and the developed countries promised the developing countries that they will inject $100 billion on this fund to help them to diversify their own economy, to move into more green industries, to more sources of energies like the renewable energy. It's only 14 billion on this climate change fund yet. The US pulled out from it. They said they will never funded it. So it's a line. Politics and economy are really the main issues tackling the environment. I'm not sure if I was really clear, and I'm sure you have more, and maybe I forget some of the ideas that I wanted to talk about, but I think I gave you the pictures. You might want to hear what Bahrain will do about it. I think we decided not to think only under the umbrella of the United Nations. We have to do something for our own people. And this is the strategy we decided to take. We are developing an adaptation plan to adapt with the climate change, and this is what we can do. We know that our own emission is 0.01% of the emissions of the world. It doesn't mean that we're not trying to mitigate it, but what we are thinking more as small island developing state is to adapt with the climate change. Mainly looking at the sea level rise and looking at the shores that's going to be affected and trying to increase the sand and the reclamation on the sides to protect the shores. And we're doing a study with Arab, which is an English consultant, what shores that we need to look at and increase the level of the shores. We're looking at even the trees that we're going to use. We developed a transplant of mangroves. We think the mangroves can protect us from the sea level rise in some of the shores, and it will improve our ecosystem on some of the polluted areas. We looked at even the landscaping and the amount of trees, and this is what we are pushing for, is we need to use trees that will reduce the temperatures. We even have done a study on the thermal of Bahrain, what is the most heated areas, using the satellite to try to make this areas lower the temperature in this areas by using different kind of transplant of trees. We looked at what is going to be, and if there is an increase. I don't know if you know this, but you know, we're living on the Gulf, and the Gulf, the flushing of the water on the Gulf used to be every 3 years. So every 3 years, the whole Gulf water, the sea water, used to be flushed out. This is not happening anymore. The flushing now is every 7 years. It's because of the shallowing of the Gulf, and it's because the water, the sweet water we used to have من شط العرب, from شط العرب is not even there. So the salinity of the seawater is increasing. We might reach a stage that we can't even desalinate because of the higher of the salinity of the Gulf and the higher of the water temperature. And increasing the water temperature in the Gulf, it means that it will not just destroy the ecosystem and the coral reefs, but it will do a fish kill. All these challenges is actually related not just to the pollution, but to the climate change. I didn't talk to you about how many oil ships we received in the Gulf. Can you imagine that 48,000 oil ships comes to the Gulf every year? 48,000. If each of this drops a liter of oil into the Gulf and the flushing every 7 years, you can imagine the damage that it will do to the sea. So all these challenges is how so worried about the air quality. I'm sure that you have an access to an app showing the air quality, especially at the American Embassy, showing that we are living in an unhealthy environment. This is, I would like to assure you that it is not, it's not accurate, but it has different reasons. And that's why we're developing now our own stations, so people can know what is the difference between the stations you're seeing now from the American Embassy and the stations we have, which we are running. The issue is the WHO, World Health Organization, has standards of the air quality, and the air quality is actually mainly about the particles. There is two main parameters. One of them is called PM10, which is 10 microns, and the other one is called PM2.5. The American Embassy is actually PM2.5. It shows most of the year is high. It's mainly because of the dust storms. We're not a country that has dense industrial factories. We know what the factories we have. We know we have Alba, we have Babco, and we know we have Sol, but they're not actually the one causing the increase on this. We have a very high cost, and the issue is the road that is next to the American Embassy is a very busy road. So you notice that the increase on the timing is actually during that time. What we need to look at, and we spoke today at the committee, the ministerial committee, is how my cars now. We need to look at the transportation, the public transport, and encourage the public transport. This is one of the main, I think, new projects that we need to activate. We can't just develop roads and increase the amount of cars. It costs us a lot of money to maintain the roads, and then it also increases the emissions because people can buy more and more cars. But the readings, what I wanted to tell you, is mainly because of the amount of dusts that we do have. The amount of dusts we do have now, it's more higher than when we had before. And this is another political, economical issues. I don't know if you know this, but Turkey is actually building a lot of dams. And those dams actually blocking the water from Syria, to Iraq, and to Iran. So mainly Iran is suffering from a shortage of water. Dijla wal Furat is not the same. Even that's why we have also a shortage of water at Shatt al-Arab, because the water doesn't reach Shatt al-Arab anymore. So what's happening is this area now is becoming dry, and most of from that area. And this is what the whole GCC, we're having absolutely the same numbers, except maybe Jubail, they have more numbers. But most of the GCC countries, we have the same numbers on the air quality. That's why we're discussing it with the WHO, telling that we are suffering from this dust and what we can do about it according to the standards. We can't reach the European standards because of mainly the dust storms we have. I don't know how much I talked. I believe it was a long talk. I would like to hear your opinion, and I would like to answer some of your questions and maybe concerns. I'm sure I can see from your faces that I raised a lot of concerns. So please, Faisal. Questions?
We have a couple of questions. It's all been written on the chat. If anyone has any questions and don't know how to type it on the chat, just send it to me directly to my WhatsApp and I'll read it. We have, before I begin, please don't forget to take your selfies so I can put it together and make a video, and make sure that the computer shows while you take your selfies before people run away from the chat.
بصوركم سيلفين كذي ما أعرف
بس عطش I can't see from
ولا أعرف أصور.
Well, I think it's fine. If you can put it towards the camera, I can't see it from. Yeah, I think that's fine. It looks. Hey, the main computer ورا. Yeah, I'm sure it's fine. So.
يا أنا أطلع هذه وهي يعود لنا شوية ما يخالف.
ما يهم. And then we have first question from Fareed Bedr. I'm just trying to see. Oh, yes. He says, thank you for the informative presentation. What changes will we have to expect in Bahrain in terms of air quality? Regulations in terms of car gas emissions? Are you going to introduce any fines on violations or misbehaviors of companies? I think it includes cars and factories and individuals.
أول شيء I want to tell you that we worked hard to develop a national strategy, and we brought into this national strategy government institutions which we think they are really related to the air quality. We brought to us Ministry of Transport, we brought IWA, we brought NOGA, and we brought the urban planning. I will tell you why the urban planning. But what we have done to the cars, I think we were pushing hard the traffic control at the Ministry of Interiors. وصراحة الشيخ عبد الرحمن كان متعاون. What we have done is now, you know that they privatized the inspections for the cars. And now the inspection mainly now with the private companies, especially Kano, Al-Mu'ayyad, all this. So what we have done is we trained those places to measure the emissions from the cars. And we gave them a certain standard that if the car can't pass and the registration can't be renewed. You will ask me and tell me why you don't remove certain age of cars. And it's a debate that is happening between, I think, the government and the parliament. It's because of social economical issues. You don't want to say that your car is old and we have to take it out of the road. And it's a social economical issue. So what we have done to tackle it is to say that your car didn't pass the emission level, so you have to do something about it. And this, I think, will help to reduce from. What we have done is we developed the strategy, and the strategy has different aspects. First, we need to improve our monitoring. And we have now 3 fixed stations, and we bought 2 more stations. This doesn't only measures the PM10 and the PM2.5. It measures the SOx and the NOx, especially from the chambers of any emissions, and it measures ammonia, measures urea, it measures so many different parameters. This is what we have managed to do. And based on this, we'll develop more policies into different sectors. Transportations, how we can encourage the public transport, reduce the IWA, we need to look at the power stations, and this is mainly let's say 25% from the emissions we have are mainly from the power stations. We know Dr. Abdul Hussein is doing a good job with the renewable energies, but we need to look at the stations we have, which is the most that Dr. Abdul Hussein at the Sustainable Energy Authority will do is they put a target by 2025 that Bahrain will be 5% renewable energy by 2025. 5% for us doesn't reach our own ambitions to reduce the emissions. So we're working to improve the quality from the air that comes out of the power stations. We're looking at, with NOGA, how to improve our own gasoline. And this is one of the main issues with the cars. That the gasoline we're using now is actually Euro 3. The whole world is using Euro 5 as a standard of gasoline. So hopefully after the modernization of the refinery, we'll move into Euro 5. Urban planning. I don't know why we don't have a public national park. We need to have parks. And we need to have parks with a certain trees. I'm glad Mona is sitting on the garden and she has a very nice trees in her background. And I'm sure she's breathing a better air than us. So we have done a study on what is a good trees for us. أنا دائما يهاوشوني يقول لي أنت ما تحب الانخلاء. I have nothing against النخل and the palm trees. And it's okay, it's our history, وإحنا بلد المليون نخلة. But you know, do you know that the dates comes from النخلة on the street? Nobody eats it. Nobody eats it because it's dates that has emissions. It's not even allowed to eat it. So النخلة consumes water. It's not green enough. And maintenance of النخلة is expensive. النخلة, I mean palm tree. So what we have done study is to find trees more green, consume little water. It doesn't go down to affect our infrastructures, and the maintenance cost of these trees is low. So this is what we are trying to promote. We need, with the urban planning, to look at the towns and what is the areas that the government own that we can develop more gardens. So all these issues is within our national strategy. Inshallah, Farid, we will put not just relations, but at least policies, strategies onto how to move forward. On the factories and the industries, we developed a new pilot now. We're saying that we can't go into, on the list we have 700 industrial facilities. So we can't go and monitor all the 700, to be honest. What we have done is we have a list of environmental consultants. We're saying to the 700, and we've done a pilot with the 10 big companies in Bahrain, go and let this, our consultant listed by us, to be our own environmental auditors. We need to know from the environmental auditors, what is your emissions? What is your waste? How many chemicals you're consuming? And where do you take your waste? How you handle your chemical? How do you storage it? All this plus the air quality for a year. So you tell us what is your air quality within a year. This report will trigger to us who's and who. And this environmental consultant is approved by us. It's not approved by the client himself, so they can't play around. So this is a new strategy. We've done it as a pilot. Inshallah, we'll do it as a practice. We've done it as a pilot not because we're questioning that it will work or not, but I was quite concerned about the cost. I don't want to put more cost on some institutions. So we need to increase the scope or decrease it depends on the size of the facility that the environmental consultant giving us an audit report about.
Okay. I have two questions which seem to be very similar. So I'm gonna ask it as one. Both are asked. One is from past President Osama Ain and Shafkat Menon. They ask, could you say that the coronavirus had a positive impact on the environment since the world has now come to a complete standstill and a lockdown?
I don't know if you've seen the pictures, and I posted it in my Instagram. I showed two different pictures from the satellite, and one on China and both of them shows the impact after Corona, before Corona and after Corona, and it shows how clear it is after Corona. It's because of the people movement. And I don't know if you read about this. This is the first time people in India have managed to see Himalayas.
Wow.
They can't see the Himalaya before because of the emissions. And now people can see Himalaya. And I don't know, Dr. Mazen, I'm sure he knows. Mazen Imran, he knows. My brother used to be the ambassador in Delhi. Dr. Dhafar also knows, my brother Tara. You know, he left the job because of a problem with his chest after just 2 years in India. So a decrease on the emissions because of the people movement is actually very clear, very clear.
Okay.
I can send you the photo, Faisal, so you can show it to them.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. If you, that's, yeah, I can, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Now, we have a question from past President Raed Samahiji. He says, is there a link between 5G and the widespread of COVID-19?
And I have doing a reading like you have done, and I'm sure Sheikh Abdullah Al-Khalifa can answer you also about this. It's there is a lot of conspiracy theories with the COVID-19. The Americans blaming China, and Mr. Trump called it a China virus. The Chinese saying that it comes out of the American base. WHO today saying it was never manufactured. Today they have said it's never manufactured. What you can, I don't know if you know this, but we do the measurement for the frequencies. So everybody has a tower next complain to us about the level of the tower and how much it damages the health. And a lot of, but you have to know, but there is an economical and political issue among the 5Gs. 5G is mainly a Chinese technology, and the US didn't reach this technology yet. So there is a conspiracy theory also saying that the Americans trying to attack the 5G because they haven't been there yet. So all this is actually stories. But what I can tell you is the 5G works on a frequency level. So the frequency level, the low frequency is very busy. They're using a very high frequency, above 300 megahertz. Those frequencies actually can cause some human damage. It's not causing the virus. No, it can cause cancers. What we will do and what we can do in Bahrain is we're going to check if the 5G within the low, which is 100 times lower than what has been used in some of the countries. Now we're trying to try it on about, I think, 30 to 35 megahertz in Bahrain. These levels, we'll see if it is safe or not safe. Regarding the towers we do have now, what I know for sure is what we have done a study and the TRA has done a study on the towers, and we measured the level of the radiations from these towers, and we checked that this tower doesn't damage any human because it is within the level that is acceptable. So this is all what I know about the 5G. And I'm not an expert, by the way, on the 5G.
Okay, we have a question from Rotary member Yazan. Can you please elaborate on the statement that by 2050, 38% of Bahrain will be gone due to rising sea level?
There is a good scenario and there is a bad scenario. A good scenario that the sea level rise by 2050, it will go to 5 meters. And there is a good scenario that it will go by 2 meters. So if we go with the high and bad scenario, 38% from Bahrain will be gone. And I'm from Bahrain, and I can't live outside of Bahrain. Sadly, most of the damages will be on this shore. اللي هو الشور from Bahrain going down وينوب تحت يمكن راس البر. We have a maps showing this. We will publish the third communication report on the climate change, and this will be a public news, inshallah jarib. So on the good scenario, by 2050, it will be just 18%, but on the worst case scenario, it will be 38%.
Okay. Ernst Weber asks, what kind of measurements about all the truck traffic? I don't know if he means, he says, what kind of measurements about all the truck traffic?
Must match,
Yeah. Okay, I'll skip that question because I don't know what he means. He says measurements of truck traffic.
Why you skip it? Go back.
No, it says what kind of measurements about all the truck traffic. So I don't know if he means
photo. I can send it to you. What we do is الحين I don't know if you drive abroad, بس اليوم renew of is based, especially if the car is more than 5 years old, it has to be done privately now. They privatized the inspections of the car. So the inspections now is doing, مثلا, for example, at Kano. So Kano, they do the inspection of the car. And part of this inspection, يشوفون ما فيه leak, يشوفون tires, they check the engine, they check sound. Part of it, they check the emissions comes from the exhaust. Before, they used to look at it, إذا فيه يطلع دخان, smoke, قالوا هاي سيارة, it doesn't pass. But now it's different. Now what we have done is we told them that this is the devices you need to have. This devices can measure the emissions comes from cars. The accepted level can pass, and this is what it can't pass. I hope I'm clear.
I think that was clear. We have Rotarian Sri. I think he's joining us from Delhi this time. I don't know where he is. He's always traveling. He asked, you said about COVID-19, which originated from animals. Is there a direct connection with the environment?
The environment, they're trying to protect it, especially the endangered species. And I don't know if you have read this or not, but the Chinese government now increase the list. They do have a list of protected species. And some of the species, now they're trying to remove it from the list that is approved to be allowed to eat. I don't know if you know about CITES agreement, but اليوم, for example, in Bahrain, what is endangered species? Any bird, for example, if you wanted to bring birds from Africa, it's not just about birds. حتى العود, حتى الplants, حتى الكروكو. يمكن people you wear croco bags. And if you go to Hermes, اليوم, you wanted to buy a croco bag, if they wanted to send this bag from Paris, they have CITES form. So we have to know where this bag come from, because we can't track where this croc come from. So اليوم, any bird you wanted to bring from abroad, the country that you brought the bird from has to give you, and then you send it to us, and we say that you can bring it or you can't. If you can't have this form from this government you brought the bird from, it means that you're smuggling this bird. So the smuggling of the endangered species is not allowed anymore. فthis is just on birds. فأنا حاجيك عن العود اليوم. You can't take عود from nature anymore, from Cambodia. فلا يقصون عليك ترى العود اليوم اللي تشتري it's not actually from the original places. So دهن عود, all these things. أي شيء endangered species. So what is this related to that is
an endangered species is
أكو سيري تحكي. All this is related to we have to protect them, يعني some of the species. If you go to AIDS بيقول لك الإيدز جاي من monkey. If you go to الحين COVID-19 بيقول لك جاي من bat. تخيل أنت يعني I read this. Bats actually have most of the viruses in the world on this bat. And the bat عشان كذي قالوا ليش البات؟ لأن البات has all the coronaviruses. We had corona before. The bat had all the coronaviruses. But at the same time, the bat had the most effective immunity system on the world. فعشان كذي البات, they don't get sick from all these viruses, but they can transfer all these viruses. عرفت؟ المشكلة إن the human being is doing يعني a lot of bad things to the animals. They're not just eating it. That's why we're having all these viruses. أنت مسكين الخروف الحين بيجيكم رمضان بتاكلون الخروف. ما خليتوا فيه شيء. لحم تاكلونه. ريل تسوونه باتشي. كرشة ما أدري شو تسوون. ما خلي الصوف ماله بتسوونه ما ادري شنو. فيعني الانسان يعني قرب الحيوان مسكين. منى ايش فيه الانخلة؟ ايش فيه؟ اوكي توت الله. اوكي تفضل.
Now, and Zain, we have 5 minutes left. It's been, just to remind everyone, it's been an hour. We have.
أنا ترى I'm all yours. أنا خلصت كل my video.
You're okay. We have a couple of questions left, so I'll leave it up to everyone. Just put a thumbs up on your screen if you want to continue. I have, I think, 4 questions.
إذا من لن تبوني أروح قولوا لي.
لا تب وين رايح؟ Oh, شردت. Okay, Mohamed Khawaja has his thumbs up. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up. I see 2 fingers up from Dr. Dhafar. All right, well, so we'll continue the questions. Past President Mohamed Khawaja asks, is it true that Rafa' Views has bad rating in air quality? I can't.
Mari, it's a very sensitive issue. Very sensitive question.
Okay.
But you have to understand that Rafa' Views is actually on an oil field first. صح? And you have to understand that on the top of Rafa' Views, there is there is Rafa' power stations, which is now almost closed. And there is Babco. So, يعني, it's not خلينا نقول environmental friendly location.
Okay. Dr. Lena Lewis asks, where are the current towers of 5G in Bahrain?
لا أظن they're not expanding يعني الحين I think only Viva activated the 5Gs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very minimum. They're not actually expanding on the 5Gs yet. They need to develop a lot of towers for that.
Okay.
But I can assure her that the frequencies is not actually like what's not in Bahrain. What's not in Bahrain, they're using a very high frequencies. We are not, and we will not allow them to use a very high frequency in Bahrain.
Sabahat is saying that she tried to log on to your Instagram account and it's on private. She wants to see those photos of what you're talking about, the comparison between China and before and after. Or is it, I think, maybe, لا تفضل.
Inshallah, I'll send it to you.
Okay. Well, what's this now? Dr. Mohamed has... Okay, I think we're done with the questions, actually. I thought there were more, but it seems to be those two were the last ones. So... okay, I'll unmute him. Please, Dr. Ghafir. Yeah, نعم, تفضل.
If you allow me for 1 minute,
okay,
to
please.
say something. First of all, I want to thank our dear friend, Dr. Mohamed, for a wonderful presentation. It was very enlightening. Really, thanks a lot. And I just had just one thing in mind, since I am a Muharraqi guy like you, we are worried about the 2025. So can't we do something like they do in Holland and some other countries where the water level is higher than the ground and they build some walls to protect the land? Can we protect Bahrain before the 2025 arrives? This is just, I thought of it because somebody mentioned something similar before. Thank you.
What I can tell you is how important this topic now. It's actually now under the discussion of the High Council for Defense, chaired by His Majesty. And we're doing a presentation on what is the effect of the sea level rise and what is the solution that we should do about. So I know this was an alarming numbers that 38% will be gone, but it's actually we're looking at it very seriously. It's not just us, it's even His Majesty looking at it in a very serious way.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, Mohammed.
Okay, so I think that's it. Thank you very much. That was a very informative presentation. I think it opened a lot of our eyes. A lot of this information we were not aware of. So I think it makes us more environmentally conscious. And thank you very much for joining us on Earth Day. If you're not aware, today, the 22nd of April, which is Earth Day.
Yes.
It's I think the perfect timing. I think Earth Day, we have to, think of the environment. And I would like to mention that Rotary Salmaniya has worked on a couple of environmental projects. We've done some beach cleanups. We've done some work with the reef. We made some artificial reefs and we put it into the sea.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I think in the north part near Muharraq and Head and that side, where to help facilitate of the reproduction of the fish. So I think we can, I don't know if I should do the secretary report. I don't know if we should really...
Yes, Faisal.
Shall I do the secretary report? Well, basically we had some people who attended the virtual meeting of Manama last Sunday, Sabahat and Khalid Turk. And that's about it from the secretary report. Treasury report, Hassan isn't here, but I mean, we didn't pay anything since it's all on Zoom. So I think the treasurer should be very happy with that. Please, Seema, would you conclude the meeting?
Yes, I would like to just thank you very much Dr. Mohamed. Wallah صراحة, it was very, very informative and interesting speech. I just would like to thank you very much. And inshallah, all well, and Ramadan Mubarak to you and to everyone.
Shukran. I think we can benefit from this gathering.
Look at my Excel sheet to see how
We
it's.
can do something together with the inshallah عقب هذه الأم إن شاء الله ما تنزاح.
Inshallah.
My Excel sheet.
Wait. Oops. What are we gonna do?
If we can arrange whatever you would like to do.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Hey.
تفضل ياسينة, you were saying something?
Yeah, just inshallah, and everybody to be safe. Well, Bahrain is doing very well. Alhamdulillah, comparing to other countries, way we are in a safe hand, and I truly thank, Sheikh Hamad and our government. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And be safe, all of you.
Thank you. Amallah.
مع السلامة.
All right, I'll unmute everyone to say goodbye. Bye everyone. Yalla.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
وانتم بخير جميعا.
يلا باي.
Bye.
يا تصفيق.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
you for joining us.
Yeah. All right, I'll end the meeting. It's getting noisy. Okay.
Bye, Faisal. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining.
Bye.
Bye,
Stay
Faisal.
safe. Stay safe.
Oh,
Stay safe.
Costas, how are you?
You can speak.